So today I'm going to talk you through labeling a heart and also explain the direction of the blood through the heart, and I'm also going to try and explain how to remember the ways to the names. So here we go. As you can see, the heart is in two halves. We have, it's hard to see here, but here we have this divider. Okay, and that divider has a special name. It's called the septum. So I'm going to put that in straight away. And I also want you to think about this. When you're looking at a diagram such as a heart or digestive system or whatever, when you're looking at it, you're imagining that you are looking at somebody facing you. Okay, so this is a heart of somebody stood in front of you, facing you. So anything that's on the left-hand side of the paper is in fact the right-hand side of the organ, and vice versa. So this is the right and this is the left. So just remember, they're looking at you. You're facing this heart. Blood that goes through the heart, the idea is that it's being pumped to the body to deliver oxygen, and it's being pumped back to the heart, so it can be pumped then to the lungs to go pick up more oxygen. So there's two types of blood circulating through the heart. There is deoxygenated, that has not so much oxygen in it anymore, so it's more of a blue colour, it's a darker colour. And then there's oxygenated, which is more of a red colour because it has more oxygen in it. Okay, so when I do this, I'm going to try and label it in two colours. Wish me luck. So first of all, what happens is the blood is pumped, the blood returns to the heart through veins. Anything going towards the heart is a vein. And on this side, as you can see, this is where the blood is coming in. And it is enormous, this vein. And it's called the Vena Cava. So it's that big, it's coming in at two places. Vena Cava. And this sometimes is called the superior vena cava because it's at the top. Sometimes this is called the inferior because it's coming in through the bottom. And this is bringing in deoxygenated blood. Okay, the blue blood if you like. Okay, here it is coming in. And it delivers it into this top chamber, okay, through these two little valves here. And this top chamber is called an atrium, and because it's on the right-hand side of the body, it's called the right atrium. Okay, so the blood comes in from the vena cava to the right atrium. And then it stays in there because this valve here is closed. And once the pressure is built up, this valve opens and boom, blood goes through down into this bottom chamber, which is still on the right, and that's called the right ventricle. But it first of all has to pass through this valve here. And this valve has a long name, but when you listen to the name, it makes sense. It's a valve that's going between the atrium and the ventricle. So it is called the right Ventricular valve, because it's on the right hand side. It's going from the atrium to the ventricle. Atrioventricular valve. Once the blood is down here in the right ventricle, the pressure builds till eventually the pressure is so great that the blood is then squeezed up and out of the heart. So it travels up through here, through this valve, okay? And this valve here is called the pulmonary Semilunar valve. Now, how to remember that name is, these two valves here are both semilunar valves, okay? But here's the thing, this one is going towards the lungs, and anything to do with the lungs is called pulmonary. So it's a pulmonary semilunar valve. And then the blood comes up here, and then it travels towards the lungs, okay? Two lungs, two roots. So this is to the lung, and this is to the lung. Okay, this this here is going to away from the heart, so it's an artery. And because it's to do with the lungs, it's called the pulmonary artery. Now, leaves, so the blood's going off it pops, and it goes to the lungs to pick up oxygen, and then it arrives back, okay, into the heart once it's picked up its caseload. And so if it's coming into the heart, okay, it is coming in through this and this here, okay, these two arteries are only small. Now the blood has picked up oxygen, so it's red, okay. So because this is a vein leading towards the heart, it's called the pulmonary vein, okay, and it's also here, so it's coming in from the lung, and again it's coming from the lung. Okay, so far so good. And it travels in like so into this top chamber here, which is now on the left. If it's a top chamber, it's called the atrium, so this would be the left atrium. Just like before, the blood stays here until the pressure is built up, and then it travels down into the left ventricle. And it passes through this valve. Any guesses what this valve could be called? Yeah, you got it. It's the left atrioventricular valve. Now, this is the thing you'll notice. The left ventricle is enormous compared to the right. The reason being is the right ventricle only had to pump blood to the lungs, which is not very far. The left ventricle, on the other hand, has to pump blood to the outermost reaches of the body, to your toes, everywhere. So it's got to be bigger, and it's got a lot more muscle around it to really give it an oomph of a push. So once the pressure builds, the blood shoots up here, and it goes through this valve at the top. Any ideas what that valve at the top could be? Well, it's going towards this massive artery that's leading away, and that artery is called the aorta. So this is called the aortic semilunar valve. Now, in textbooks, in different diagrams, you're going to see the aortic semilunar valve is also known sometimes as just as the aortic valve. But we're going to call it semilunar because that's what IB call it, and it also matches the semilunar over here. Okay, now the next part is this enormous artery leading away from the heart, and look how big it is, and think about it, it's going to every reach of the body apart from the lungs, so it's pumping out everywhere. So this is called the aorta. And then the blood goes everywhere to the body. Okay, here if you want to add it, we have thick muscular wall. You'll notice that when people say, oh, the heart's on the left hand side. Well, actually the heart is really in the middle, but the left part of the heart sticks out slightly, so therefore that's where you feel that the more the heart is. When you hear bum bum, bum bum, bum bum of a heartbeat, it's the opening and closing, well, it's actually the closing of these valves. Bum bum, bum bum, all together. Bum bum, bum bum. Okay, heartbeat. Just a couple more things, if I move this up for you. There are different names for different valves, because hey, it's biology and why would there not be? So I'm just going to give you some names for them. So the left atrioventricular valve can also be called the mitral valve, and also it's sometimes called the bicuspid valve. Both of those are valuable, both of those are good, but it's easier to remember that it's on the the left-hand side, and it's between the atrium and the ventricle, so the left atrioventricular. That's how I remember it, okay? Because is it a mitral? Is it the bicut? It's confusing. So I would keep it with the left atrioventricular. The right atrioventricular can also be called the tricuspid valve. So now you can see bicuspid, tricuspid, which one's which? Forget it. Is it on the left? Is it on the right? It's a atrioventricular. Got away with it. The pulmonary semilunar valve, okay, so the pulmonary semilunar, this one here, is sometimes just called the pulmonary valve. And the aortic, where did it go? Can't find my... The aortic semilunar valve is also sometimes just called the aortic valve. Okay, so there you have the two sides of the heart, labelled, directional flow, and the two different types of blood that's within. And there you have it.